I am sitting on $54 million. And I think I can do something a little bit to make sure my citizens are a little bit happier about that. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of my Cities Skylines series where I am sitting firstly in the statistics just to show you just how big a cash flow I've gotten. Recently back a few episodes ago I was sitting on about $10 million. And since I have been putting in all of these little bits, I've been just steadily climbing. And I've usually been sitting around 200, 300,000 income, but it sometimes drops to 20 or negative 20 and up to 700. And I think it's mostly down to this little section here, which is a little bit iffy. So we might do something with that today. However, we also have to look through our taxes, and if we look through here, we're only getting about 96,000 or so. Yeah, just over 100,000. Only about 70 odd thousand from the commercial, and only 5,000 from offices, which is a ridiculously small amount. I believe it's, as I said, just down to the amount of people and the amount of money I have. They just don't want to pay up money to a city that's sitting on $55 million. So, and I've also got heaps and heaps of abandoned buildings. So, I'm going to try a little bit of an experiment today. I'm going to try and get rid of this stuff, and the shipyard as well, because I don't think this is particularly helpful at the moment, and it's just going to add to my enormous wealth. And I think I'm going to try and see if I can get taxes down to 1 or 0% or 1% or whatever the lowest amount I can do is. So that's our two aims for today, and we're going to run it for a little while and see what happens. We're also going to try and expand our tree and our oil, which will probably be done off camera, mainly because I've done that for the past 6-7 episodes now. So we'll see what happens. Just looking more into the taxes, if we're looking over at our industries, whatever. If we're looking in our industries, we can see that, generally speaking, we're making a fair amount of profit in our four areas, or 5 areas if you count fish. The trees is a little bit down, but that's mainly because I haven't really developed that yet, and that will come up massively. So if we're looking at our warehouses and unique factories, I'll just unpause the game. We can see that this one's sitting about negative 30 odd thousand. It was negative 40,000. I've seen that as high as negative 80 and as high as about 80 or so. So it doesn't really net in the cash, and it is possibly most of my expenses. So I'm thinking if I just get rid of them entirely, that might stabilize my income and make it a steady 200,000-300,000 or so. I reckon that would be a good thing to do, which is why the justification, you can see there, just pause the game, negative 93,000, and I'm sitting on negative 50,000. So the main source of my income going up and down is the warehouses and the unique factories. And the unique factories are fine, I think, but it's the warehouses that are really killing it. So I'm just going to get rid of the lot and see what happens. What I might do to test it really is just turn off everything and see what happens. See if my income is significantly affected. So let's turn everything off and then see what happens. While I'm waiting for the thing to go up, you can just see the amount of tax that I've got. So I'm going to put the treasury there. So around here, on this square or rectangle, is where the treasury really started to shoot up. And if we remove the treasury, you can see it's about there where my taxation limits really started to go massively down. So that is something to prove that the treasury and taxation are linked. As an aside, I've noticed that this is starting to happen a little bit more often now. There's just random patches of, I suppose it's water going straight into the void just there. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. My suspicion is it's just a bit of a loading error up here. There's just so much happening in this side of the city that the game just can't cope. And I usually just despawn my game or leave my game around here. So it may just be a loading error and a quick load. And you can see over here, just a quick random mountain as well seems to have popped up. I probably could just save the game and come back in, and it should fix that. Now the other thing I didn't really consider is that doing kind of turning off all the factories and all the warehouses, I think I've done them all, is going to put significant pressure on the export facility, which I removed a few of the stations recently, and it means now that these 4 stations, looks like these 3 and these 2, because they don't seem to want to go down there, these stations are all very under a lot of pressure to get the stuff out. So what I might do in the future is just have a simple train station from say here to here, and then this train station deposits the trucks out, because I don't need look, even more rubbish there. You can see I don't want these vehicles to be sending trucks out to the nethersphere. I only want the train terminals to be so, because the train terminals have an infinite amount of trucks, whereas these do not. So that is something that I'm going to have to do to make sure that I don't have too many trucks going out. And you can see here, just on the ones here, that's going to put a significant amount of pressure on the western and eastern ring roads. So something to consider as I get this underway. And there we go. So proof that shutting down all the warehouses and unique factories does not result too much in any lingering expenses. We can see there's 0, 0, 0, 0, and we're still making a fairly decent amount of profit. This should go up and down a little bit because the ore has been high as 300,000 and the oil was high as 600. That might be a little bit down because of the amount of stuff I'm not putting into the factories, but we shall see what happens in the future with that. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to just go through and start bulldozing all of these unique factories. And even if I do want to put them back at some point, it's not going to matter too much because I have so much money. What I want to do now is empty all these warehouses. Let's see, let's get rid of that one as well. So now if I set these warehouses to empty, and make for this one I put it out to the other side, or they can just go by train, I think. Either way, I can start emptying them out. So let's put this to none, and it should start emptying away, and then that should mean that I start getting a whole stack of money off warehouses as well. So empty that as well, and then we should be good. One thing I forgot as well is I think I'm going to have to turn all of these back on for them to completely empty, but that shouldn't take too long for that to happen. So turn that back on and go through all of these and turn them once again back on, and then empty the resource. But it should mean profit, profit, profit. You can see there 2,400 for 720. So that is going to be getting me a lot of profit. Now there's a building on fire somewhere in here. Hopefully that's not too much of a concern, and hopefully the fireys can get there and get it out. This of course is going to put a huge amount of pressure over here, but we'll see how it happens. Shouldn't take too long for this stuff to empty and I'll make lots of money. So this is going to take a little while to slowly reduce, and I don't really notice there's a bit of a face behind there. There's 2 eyes and a bit of a mouth and 2 noses and whatever. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. So over here, I think I'm going to start reducing the tax income. Well, so you can see here, I've got $58 million, and the farming, forestry, I've got a few places which I need to get rid of. Office is $4,000 odd, and industry is level 3. So I think, where's my taxes? I think I can reduce that all the way down to 1%, and that's not going to do anything to really. That's barely, that's 12%. 10% is that. I should be barely getting about 800 or so from those two. If I reduce that, it's still going to be a fairly decent chunk of income lost. So I might put these down to about, I'll put them down to about 7% for the time being and see what that does. But of course the ultimate aim is to get that down to 1%, because I think that's the lowest you can go, and see what happens. Because yeah, I don't really need the money anymore, and I could probably just burn through it all. And of course, if I need more money at any point in time, I can always just make it rise. What that should do as well is it should increase the amount of people and commercial and all that I'm getting in or wanting to move in. You can already see I've got huge demands for people, which I've still been ignoring because I've still got a fair bit I want to work on before I start getting people in. Man, this is really, really, really busy. I didn't know this is going to happen. Well, I should have foreseen it happening. And it is, I think it's slightly hampering what I can do with this stuff. You can see down here, it's just chock-a-block with cars and trucks just trying to deposit off their goods. And even some of the wood ones too, which is a little bit annoying, but there's not much I can do about it. Okay, so after a little bit of construction and deconstruction, I've got rid of all of the industrial parks and most of the roads. There we go. I have left this little, well, part of a roundabout anyway, to facilitate further expansion, because I am planning to put a rather bigger industrial park, more along the lines of this, over here, all the way up here somewhere. Now, one thing I have noticed is that there's a lot of trains heading this way, because I think this is the easiest way to export things from the general industry areas. So they all seem to be heading off into the region, and I do note this is going to cost me it's going to put a lot of pressure on my road network to keep up, especially this north-south one, which is a limited speed highway, and the ring road, which is an unlimited speed highway. So I'm hoping that most of the trucks use the ring road to go all the way around and go around the city instead of through the city, which would be incredibly helpful. I know I keep saying I'm going to stop doing the industry, but it just keeps coming and coming and coming. There's just so much stuff to sort out with it before I get to the point where I want it to. So what I've got here is just a long line of trains, all from down here. You can see it just going all the way through the tunnel, and eventually, if not already, it's backed up through here. So that is something that I'm going to need to deal with, and because they're all, from the looks of it, none of them are coming into the export hub, or very few of them are coming into the export hub, which is just trains anyway. So most of them look to be taking the road out, which is interesting. It means we can remodel this area again, once again, in order to make sure that we've got road access, and that does mean we're going to have to get rid of those, I think. So we're going to have some trains coming in. If we get my train station out, we're going to have some train stations for these lines, at least 2. We're going to have at least 1 for the ore and at least 1 for the farms. So that's at least 5. And then we're going to have some super duper roads heading out of here. So it's going to have to be highway into highway, and yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff. See here as well, a lot of these, they're all returning to facility, which is not what we want. We don't want them going by car, because that's just going to mean that these ones are going to be trying to export by car. We want them to use the trains and the trains only, and the trains will then take it by road using the cargo stations trucks instead of the storage trucks. So that should be something that we can do reasonably easily. So what we're going to have to do is at some point we're going to clear out this station so we actually have the trains that we need. I don't think we need any of these anymore from the looks, so we can clear those, and I'll get rid of those, and there we go. I've got rid of that stuff there. So we need to figure out, we've got fish from here, at least 2 trains of fish, which is a little bit interesting. We do have at least 2 of those and 1 of those, and quite all over the place. So which is telling me we need at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 stations, all of them coming in a line, a freeway possibly, to come across, say, through here, and then up and over and exit the highway this way, or to come along the highway this way. And hopefully the 3 lanes each way is going to suffice for the amount of traffic it's going to have to bear. So yeah, there's still ones using that one, which is not necessarily a good thing. There's nothing going to be using these 2. You can get rid of that one, and get rid of that line, that one, and all that, and that. Now, I'm not particularly keen to use this as my main exit, because I want this to be industrial over here as well, or general industry. So that's something that we might have to keep an eye on. I think the only thing to do is really just to demolish and start again, I reckon. I'm not exactly sure. And it's something I'm kind of putting off, if I'm honest. So a fair bit to look through and think about and do. And while we're at it, we can look at the budget again, and if we look at our taxes, we're sitting at 7% on these top 4, but our offices and our industry and our offices and industry are at 1%, and even at 7%, these are barely doing anything. They're $70,000 odd, and we're barely doing anything. We're still making a fairly decent income there, so I reckon we can dump these all the way down to 1%. There we go. And that shouldn't make too much of a dent in our money. And even if it does, that's still, we've got what, $60 million now. So that is just crazy amounts. There's a few more things I could do to make my citizens even happier when it comes to tax. I could put on the workers' union, which I've already done. I haven't yet seen what that's going to do with my population or my money, but that shouldn't be too much of an effect. Because all that does, it just makes my citizens happier, even though they're leaving the city at the moment, and reduces residential income or tax income by 2%, which is already on 1%, so I don't know what that does there. If we go over to taxation, I can do low tax relief for all of these, and that should help I was going to say help my tax income. It's not really going to help my tax income, it's just going to lower my tax income even more. And it's just going to make myself completely reliant on this. You can see here I'm doing 98% of my income is coming from industries and fishing, and that is a whopping amount. I am entirely reliant on stuff being dug out of the ground or being farmed on top of the ground to make my income, which is kind of interesting. Well, I didn't think it was possible, but we have managed it. We've got our residents paying not a cent to stay in the city. Same with our commercial, same with our offices. The industry is doing a little bit of stuff, and it's mostly off the forestry, which I still plan to get rid of eventually. And the level 3 industry, I'm not sure what that's going on with, and I'm not sure if I can get rid of that. But it looks like I'm entirely reliant now on industry to make money. And of course, if I ever, in the very, very, very unlikely scenario, I run into money problems, I can of course just put up my taxes to something ridiculous, like 29% or something. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to manage this. As you can see, I've dumped the fish straight onto the road, which isn't really helping since most of them are coming round straight into here anyway. So that is something I want to fix up. I'm going to have to get rid of this road here, but I'm still mulling over how the best way to fix this is. I'm thinking somewhere along here it needs to be a cargo hub, so I can have trains going straight in, possibly 1, 2, 3, 4. So something like that might be great. If there's no slope too steep, something around here would be brilliant. It might need to go the other way actually. If we dump it like that, could probably go somewhere around here, which isn't ideal, but it does help solve some of our problems, I think. So a little bit more thinking and a little bit more organization of this yet to come. What I'm thinking as well is one of the best ways to take the cargo off these train lines is to simply move the problem, in a sense. So instead of having the train line go all the way back up to our export hub, it's simply to have these 2 train lines come into a train station over here perhaps, and then this to go straight onto the ring road going in both directions, which I think would be beneficial, very, very beneficial in order to keep the number of trains down, and that solved a little bit of our problem around Rockhampton and Animal Farm. So I think I'm going to do that with the 3 oil areas, with Junction, with Portola, and with Victoria, and of course with Forestry, and then we can see what we can do about the other bits. I decided to change up just a little bit of what I'm doing here. So instead of having all of these go directly into roads, they're going to still go by train. So my income hopefully doesn't drop too much. I do need to keep an eye on these things to make sure they're not trying to export somewhere else, but I don't think that's going to happen too much. So those things should go pretty well, and with the forestry and the farming, they look to be going very, very well indeed. So my income should remain relatively stable at around 250,000 a week. And so those things are going well. The oil is actually well up, which is good to see. The ore is a little bit down. But overall, I'm going very well with my money, obviously, as well as very well with the standard income that I'm getting. So that should work pretty well. And you can see heaps and heaps of fish trucks going away, and they're all going... Well, those for some reason are going through there through here into the cargo airport, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but that's something I might want to move at some point. Maybe move the what is it? Maybe move the cargo airport to the ring road instead of this little highway. Another thing I did notice checking some of the trucks is that some of them are coming along this highway down through here, down through here, down through here, and across out here. So something that the ring road would carry, since the ring road is unlimited speed. If I was to cut it through here and then join up to the main east-west highway, that would solve that problem. So future problem for me. And lastly, let's have a look at our budget and our taxation, which is orange and red, or orange and yellow really. So we can see our taxation levels have gone all the way down to 0. They crashed down after we did it all. Our city budget is, also crashed down after we got rid of all those unique factories and warehouses. Our employment percentage is roughly equal. Our available jobs keeps going up. Tourism is relatively equal. We're going to have to do something about that soon. Tourist tax seems to have gone down. I think that's because they're not really doing much tax, and I think I don't really know about that. We'll have to see what we can do about that. Happiness is relatively even. It's going up, which is good to see. And all sorts of other mannerisms, things, whatever, in here is going well. So the important thing is our tax is on 0, and that's what we want to see. So thank you very much for watching. I'm going to see you soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And I shall see you then. Goodbye.